We have spent weeks wondering how big September would be for sports betting. Well, we have an inkling now. With an unprecedented schedule that included the start of the NFL season, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs, and the MLB postseason, we knew September would break some records. Do you think you can handle these numbers? We'll find out on this episode of Playusa to Z. I briefly contemplated going a few good men with this episode, but it's hard to get Jack Nicholson levels of angry when I basically only have good news to report. Before I dive into that, though, be sure to follow us, like the video, and hey, maybe tell me what you think of this video in the comments. Do you want more outfits and fewer updates on in-person registration? Let me know. All right, now, time to get a handle on things. Let's start with the record-breaking numbers out of Indiana. For the first time since launch, Indiana sports betting handle exceeded $200 million for the month. The specific total was $207,450,106, nearly half of which came from the DraftKings sports betting app and a little bit from the Ameristar retail sportsbook. FanDuel came in second, and a surprising name rounded out that top three. That would be PointsBet and the Hollywood Lawrenceburg Casino. Here's the rub, though. It wasn't the app that drove handle. Almost $10 million came from the Cincinnati area sportsbook, while just $6.2 million actually came from the PointsBet app. Now, when you look purely at online handle, the clear number 3 in the state is actually BetMGM. What's interesting to note here is that BetMGM didn't really get going in the States. It only launched in Indiana in March of this year. When I asked our Play Indiana reporter Jake Garza if there were a lot of ad buys for the new app, his response was, "Oh God, yes." In addition to flooding the airways with Jamie Foxx BetMGM commercials, the app is even advertising in some surprising ways, like partnering with local restaurants and providing BetMGM coasters with information on how to sign up. You know, one of the big questions around this late push into the market from MGM was whether or not the brand recognition could overcome that head start that FanDuel and DraftKings had. Now, here is where you should take MGM's third place standing with a grain of salt. Yes, the group is solidly in third place, but let's break down just how far behind they are 1 and 2. DraftKings took almost $90 million in wagers. FanDuel took in $56.5 million, and BetMGM took in $13.1 million. So the lion is trending upward, but it has a long way to go to compete with the big two in the Hoosier state, and in other states for that matter. Now, next door in Illinois, the market leader is totally bucking the national trend of FanDuel and Sportsbook ruling the roost. Now, tiny point of order, Illinois is a month behind the rest of the markets in terms of reports. So when the numbers we're talking about come up, keep in mind this is for August, not for September. Several apps and retail books launched in August. DraftKings launched on August 5th, while FanDuel didn't get going until August 28th and has exactly 3 days of revenue in the month. BetRivers, on the other hand, was up and running the entire month, and boy, did that app make the most of it. Of the nearly $140 million in Illinois wagers, $117.7 million were placed at BetRivers. That's an 84% market share. In other words, the kind of market share DraftKings or FanDuel would kill for in any regulated open market. Sure, DraftKings was missing a couple days of action, but it still mustered just $14 million in wagers. So how did BetRivers do it? Now, this is conjecture, but here are some potential factors. First, BetRivers had a substantial head start, taking wagers as early as the summer. Moreover, BetRivers went bigger on advertising in June and July when there was no competition. Second, they have a quality database of names because they can draw from the customers at Rivers Des Plaines Casino in Illinois. Now, FanDuel and DraftKings have numerous DFS players in Illinois to draw from, but we saw a similar pattern in Pennsylvania regarding BetRivers early on. There, they had not one but 2 land-based casino databases to draw from, including the only property anywhere close to the Pittsburgh area, and they got off to a fast start as a result. Finally, and I'm just floating this idea, but I think there's something to be said for the fact Chicagoans have been tangentially exposed to online sports betting for over a year because of the Indiana marketplace. They know about the concept. They know how to shop for sign-up bonuses and other promos, and these factors might make them head to BetRivers faster without the advertising pull to get them there. Now, certainly the push-pull of Indiana both having live markets is going to impact both states. Even with the competition from Illinois in July and August, Indiana betting still seems to be on the rise. However, where it ends up in the pecking order of markets is probably going to change in just a month or two. In August, Indiana was the fourth largest market, trailing New Jersey, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. Illinois was in fifth, leapfrogging Colorado from July. With more apps getting a full month of betting in during September, it certainly seems possible Indiana's record month won't be enough to stave off its neighbor. Now, it's time to applaud Iowa because they leapfrogged in the ranks as well. In September, the state blew its handle record out of the water, taking in $72.4 million in bets. The previous record came all the way back in November 2019 when the state took $59.3 million in bets. That was enough to surpass West Virginia's roughly $64 million in bets for the month. So good job, Iowa. You surpassed a more mature market with half the population of your state. If you tune in week out and week into this little program, you probably know what's coming next. It's time to break me off a piece of that IPR. In-person registration remains in effect for, thankfully, less than 100 more days in Iowa, but we continue to see just how much this practice is hampering the growth of the marketplace. For a state like Iowa, in an exploding region for sports betting like the Midwest, the short-sighted of this cannot be overstated. As I discussed with Illinois and Indiana, you can't view these markets in a bubble. Iowa's fortunate that just a single bordering state, Illinois, currently has an active sports betting market, but that's just the situation for now. Can Iowa handle the competition in the future? We won't know until they get there, but more than willing to bet that in-person registration didn't help matters. Think you have a handle on the handle? Just in case, let's end with some top-line numbers. According to a recent story on our sister site, Legal Sports Report, the total number of legal sports betting handle in the U.S. since the repeal of PASPA, every time, man, I never get that right. Anyways, it now exceeds $25 billion. That in the span of just 2 years and a few months. Of that, 64% of those bets are placed online. The industry's come a long way from the limited market of Las Vegas and Nevada. There are now 4 markets with at least $1 billion in betting handle, and that number is just going to continue to grow. So even if we have a handle on handle right now, who knows where we'll be 6 months from now? I'm sure I'll be getting handle on handle again in the future. But in the meantime, I think that's my time. So I'll see you next time on Playusa to Z.